Hey everybody, it's Justin from Bitnerbuilt, and this is the Eufy Make E1, the world's first personal 3D textured UV printer. That's a mouthful, right? But this is a machine that has been regulated to the professional industries, where it was something that was costing $15,000, $20,000 and above, out of the range of most normal people. But now we have a machine that individuals and small businesses can use that will bring a lot of functionality that you couldn't achieve before. You are able to place physical objects in here, woodworking projects, 3D prints, a cell phone case, and it will print directly onto it photo quality, full color images. That's really, really cool. And on top of that, when we use the term 3D texturing, it is a UV ink. So it prints the ink, and then when it goes back, it hits it with a UV light, instantly curing it. Because it's cured, it can just keep doing it and put layer upon layer upon layer and build it up to 5 millimeters in height. So now you can actually make crazy 3D textures and raised images and stuff. It's something that I've never had access to in my shop. Now, if you're a woodworker or you use laser engravers, 3D printers, personalization, print houses, stuff like that, follow me with this video. Let's see if this is something that would be a great addition to your production workflow. Obviously, this is a sponsored video. I have one of the very first videos out on this. I've had it for a month before anybody even knew about it. But if you check my website, you know that I have an integrity and review policy. Eufy Make does not have any editorial content over this video. Even still, I'm sticking to the data on this video. We're going to make a ton of projects. Every single project, I'm going to give you how long it took to manufacture it, how much ink it used, any other consumables that we have on that. We're going to look at different materials to see what we can print on and what we can't. I will show you failures on here. I'll talk about things that gave me difficulties. There is a Rotary, so we can do tumblers. There is a DTF Laminator, so we can make stickers. I'm printing some stickers right now on some sticky transfer paper and stuff. So we're gonna explore as much as we can. I'm gonna give you as much data as I can. It's gonna be a really long video, so make sure you check the chapter markers in case you wanna jump around. Also, you can make a decision for yourself if this is something that works for you, or maybe it's not for you. You know, not everything's for everybody. But so far, I can tell you, for me, in my shop, it has added a lot of functionality that's really cool that I've never had access to before. So I'm really excited to have it and really excited to show it to you. Today on Bitnerbuilt. Let's unbox. Pull the Velcro, lift the box, remove the bed box, take off the film, remove the foam from the top, remove the protective wrapping so that you can access the handles. Lift it out by the handles, and there we go. No screwdriver, no real assembly needed. Open the front lid and remove the foam. Inside the large box, we have a quick start guide, a adhesive mat, and the actual bed that will be installed inside of the printer. We have UV goggles. You do need to wear these for safety if it's out in the open. Our power cables, an Allen key, 3 ceramic magnets that you can use to test out your machine, your air filter, and loose inside we also had a smaller adhesive mat. To install the filter, we remove this top plate. It is held in place magnetically. That's nice. We're going to take our filter. It says facing out on this side with 2 tabs. We're going to place that inside, pushing it flush, and then put the cover back on. Let's install the cleaning cartridge. On the back of it, it does indicate to wear protective gloves. It can be harmful if swallowed, so I threw on some latex gloves. On the side of the machine, there is this cavity that can be opened. It warns you on a piece of paper in here and in the instructions to remove the 3 red protective covers. You do that by just simply pulling straight out. Don't pull at an angle because there are these piercing spikes behind here which will pierce the cartridge once we put it in. We're now going to take the cartridge, slide it into place. We're going to push it so that it pierces the cartridge, and then we're going to put the cover back on. When installing our cartridges, there are colors corresponding to everything, so just make sure you put each cartridge in the appropriate slot. The cartridges look like this. I'm going to go ahead and insert them just like this. Pressing down. That's it. On the left side, we have the port to plug in your power cable. We have the power button to turn it on and off, a Ethernet port, and we also have a security cable port. After turning on the machine and hearing the bong noise that it makes, we're going to go inside the app on our cell phones. We're going to add the printer through a wireless connection. It sees it here via Bluetooth, and so I'm going to select it. Ask me to press the button on top of the machine one time. Now it's going to ask me to add in my details for my wireless internet. Okay, it's added my printer to my Wi-Fi account, so now I can access it from anywhere. I'm going to label it Justin's or Bitterbilt's. We're going to update the firmware. I've taken out the main bed, and what I'm going to do is attach on our adhesive tray. We're going to leave the paper on the top. I'm going to peel off the bottom sticker, and I'm going to place it on top of the bed here so that it lines up with the edges. I want to make sure it's not going over at all. We're going to leave the paper on because when it does its initialization, it's going to actually print tests directly onto this. So I'm going to put it back on, I'll lock it down so it doesn't move. And in the software, I'm going to start the initialization. Okay, so I'm going to look at this test sample and also at the example on my phone to make sure that they match. And my test example on here, I have very good color, clean lines all the way through, no gaps, so everything looks good. So I'll let it know that it was good. All right, so now we are ready to use. I can go ahead and tear off this sheet of paper. We're inside the Make It Real software, and it has a huge repository of pre-made projects in here that you can just click on and edit to your own uses. This is a great way for you to learn how to use this machine and the software. I really like when companies have this type of repository native inside the application. There's also a lot of AI stuff as well in here too that you can utilize. This is the printer status screen. So when we're printing, it would give me a progress bar in here. Gives me all my cleaning options and my different, calibration options over here, as well as a view over my ink. And so if we go into a canvas, you see a picture of, the bed that you're currently using. I have the mini bed in. You can use the big bed or the rotary. This uses 4 lasers as well as cameras in order to measure and show your bed, which is nice. This software you really need to understand is for layout. It is really not a creation software. There are creation things in here, so you can go in here and pick out elements and add them in here if you feel like it. There are templates and things in here that you can go in and add. So here's a sticker, and I can double click on it and edit it. So it does have some of those functions in here, but really you're probably going to be designing in Photoshop, Illustrator, and other design programs that you're familiar with, and then importing things in through the upload function. So I have an image here that I did, and when I have my image in here, I'm basically sizing it so that I can put it on something. I can rotate it so that it fits what I'm going to print it on. I then have the option to keep it flat. I could raise it, and I could also choose to do pattern texture or relief texture. These are both AI functions right here, and it will kind of generate things for you. There, again, are some basic things, tools in here, but overall it is for layout. Once you have it laid out, you would go to start a print task, and it gives you your final screen showing you, hey, this is what we're going to print, and it asks you what material are you going to print this on, what ink mode are we going to use, and I will go into depth in this later in the video, and what quality would you like to use. Afterwards, you hit print. You can see it has the 4 lasers here while it's measuring the height of everything. One last important thing to show before you hit that print button, over here on the side, it is telling you what the estimated ink usage is in order to print this. So in this case, it is 0.05 milliliters, and it shows you of every single one of your ink cartridges how much it's going to use. There are paid subscriptions inside this software. The software is free to use, but if you want additional features, you have to pay for them. I've asked questions. I've been told that everything will be explained at the Kickstarter, so unfortunately I can't speak to this to you, but I wanted to make sure that I touched on it. We are going to use one of our magnets that was included as our first test. So we're going to place that on there. This now has a sticky texture to it, so it's going to hold our products down. It's going to give us one of our 3D projects that we could try. We'll do this dragon, why not? So what's going to happen is on the material here, we're going to take a snapshot of the bed. And so the camera is going to take a look, take a picture, and then we can actually align our image using the picture in the camera, which makes it really easy. Inside the software, you can now see my magnet that's there, and you can see my dragon picture that we have. Okay, so now that I have it positioned, we're going to start the print. So it's ready, and now over on the printer, I'm going to hit the start button. All right, our test print took 19 minutes and 25 seconds. This is a 3D textured print, so this is something that would be slower than if we had just done a flat print. And here we are. Here we go. And as you can see, there is texture to it, particularly like in this space over here. It's pretty crazy. It has a little bit of a smooth plastic feel to it. This is a simple, flat cell phone case print, really low ink, really low cost, prints fairly quick, so this is a pretty nice marketable item. A more advanced cell phone case, this is heavy 3D relief. It's 5mm. You can see a ton of relief in this one. An AI image on a coin, both sides. Wanted to make sure that we could easily print on metal. It's very durable once it's on there. Playing around with some different strategies on a 3D print. The main goal here was to make sure that we can print on 3D printed material, which it can, which opens up a lot of possibilities. You have to be careful with leather. I tried printing a whole bunch of different things on here. You'll notice that thin things like that image and the text move fine with it, but the thicker print ends up cracking. So if it's on a rigid leather object, you're going to have a lot more longevity out of the product than if it's highly flexible like this. Printing CMYK only with no white makes this print transparent. It went on clean and it's pretty durable on there. I used one of the AI generators to turn a picture of my dog into a cartoon. Pretty easy print on ceramic magnet. I wanted to try a highly curved surface. You'll notice on the right that there's going to be a lot of fade there. You can get pigment on the sides, but just know that there's going to be heavy distortion. This is some flexible silicone Apple Watch bands. It does perfectly print to them, but this is not a flexible material. So while this side is flexing, on the other side, it did break free as soon as I started to flex it a lot. The next two sets of magnets, you can see that the 3D version on the right actually distorted the picture. So sometimes pictures just are better printing flat. It doesn't happen every single time, but you can see in both of these examples, the AI didn't really get the 3D capabilities of the faces right. You can definitely print on golf balls. However, obviously, as it curves, you're going to have feathering. It is not ultra durable, though. I was able to pick it apart eventually, so it's not for actual golf play. You can definitely print to pens and other skinny objects, and you can get a raised texture on it, which will, give it a little bit something than the normal labeled pen. You might have just noticed that I had some overspray on my mat and it left a rectangle on there. So I wanted to talk about that. The mats are consumables. So Eufy Make does sell 5-pack replacements of these. Obviously that is money to spend, so you want to make your mats last as long as possible. So let's talk about some different things here. One, if you are printing something that doesn't go edge to edge, you're fine. As long as this thing stays on your mat, you're not going to ruin your mat. It's when you're going to print something edge to edge like that dragon magnet that I did that you need to protect your mat. You could put paper down around the edges if you wanted to. You could 3D print or laser engrave a jig, which obviously if you're doing this a lot, jigs will be your friend, of course. You can use sticky tape to hold things in place, because something to know is that the print head is not physically touching your item. It is actually above it, squirting the ink out into space, crazy enough. So The reason why we need sticky here, why we need the item to kind of adhere to the bed, is because the bed moves back and forth, up and down, and you don't want it to shift, obviously. A last way that I did was I took a silicone mat that I had bought off Temu for like $1, and I cut it to the shape of my thing. And so this stays pretty good. Well, it's not upside down and sideways, of course. So it stays pretty good on here. If there's overspray, because it is flexible, you just go like this and it comes right off. The negative on this one is it's not sticky. It does have some like anti-traction texture on it. So I've probably used this maybe 10 times. One of them I did have a item shift, and thus the print failed. So it's not foolproof, but again, you could have implemented the double-sided sticky tape in addition to that if you want to. Lots of different things that you can play with. Obviously, you want to try and keep this nice as long as you possibly can, because once it starts building up, it'll impact your prints because they won't lay flat. Okay, so switching to the large bed, we need to do the exact same process for the first time like we did on the other one. We're going to remove the sticky backing from behind this. We're going to lay it out on top of the bed. Now that I put on this large bed, I needed to do another camera calibration. This calibration only needs to happen the first time that you put a new adhesive pad down on a bed. So it's going to remember this one as long as that adhesive pad is still stuck on there, since this is a product that will deteriorate over time and you can replace it with another one. Whenever you do that replacement, you need to calibrate again. Now that we have the large bed installed, let's go for the gusto and do something big. So this is a piece of steel right here. I'm going to turn this into a sign for my kids' Kung Fu school. So let's go ahead and apply it. What we can see here is the metal plate is now shown inside the workspace. I'm going to go to upload, and I'm going to make a sign for my kids' Kung Fu school. I worked with them on it today. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with just a yellow background. And now I'm going to bring in another layer, which is just the text. Now I have two separate layers, and you can see that I have two separate layers here, and you can actually hide them if you want to. So on the yellow layer, I want it to be flat. On the layer that has all of this stuff, I'm going to go for a raised. And you can decide 1 millimeter all the way up to 3 millimeters here. And let's hit preview, see what it looks like. So you can see that we actually have 3D letters coming out right here. And the yellow is just going to be flat on the metal. So that's it. And of course, while I'm right here, I could even change this a little bit and bring it a little down if I wanted to, but let's go crazy. Let's go for 3 millimeters right here. Let's try it out. Let's hit start. All right, we are all finished on this sign. So let's take a look at it. So again, it's metal on this side. As you can see, we got some huge height on here. Before I tell you how long this took to print, let's do it again. So I have another one of these sheets. We're going to put it down. This time we're going to print it without the 3D rise on it. We're just going to do one flat print because this is pretty big. And so then I want to compare the two and the times that it took to print them. All right, so our flat print is done. Came out good. Now the big test here. So this large sign came in at 36 minutes to print, and it came out great. The one with the 3 mil raised lettering and logo on there, which I would say is probably 40%, maybe 35% over the overall coverage on this one. That one took 8 hours and 8 minutes. Don't freak out about that last one. It was literally a mistake and at the most extreme edge of what you could do with this machine. We were literally printing a solid cake of ink in the middle of that, and that just isn't very cost effective. Like in 3D printing, they are mostly air inside the 3D prints. They make a lattice work to support the structure, but they're trying not to waste material. So all that did was waste material. So I've printed a whole bunch of other ones. Let's look at these from a like a financial perspective, where like we want to get the most bang for our buck with the client, where they're impressed, but we also don't want to spend as much as possible. First, we had the flat one that we produced first. That was $1.06. The next one, I did a texture on the letters in particular, so you can feel it, but you can't really see it. I don't know if this one has a lot of value there, but it was only $3.09. Not a lot of impact visibly, but you do have a physical thing that you can feel on here. The second one really is the same as the first, so we're not even going to bother with it. The next one here, I raised everything about the thickness of a piece of paper, maybe two. This one came in at $8.23. So now you can see that it is a raised texture, but it is like the equivalency of like having a sticker on there, maybe as an extra layer, if you want to think that. There might be some value right here. It all depends on what your project is, but you know, still pretty small impact. Where we get to a larger impact is this one. This one is $15.48 in ink. $15 might be high, but it's definitely not $170. So we're still way off of where that crazy one was. So this one, everything's elevated a little bit, but then at the edges of all the letters and all the shapes, it's actually raised a little bit more. So basically it has the shape of it goes up to a high peak, comes down, and then goes back up to a high peak and comes down again on all of these shapes. That gives it a heavy texture, a very visible 3D element to it. And so this one looks a lot better than this other one, albeit it is about twice as much as the other one. So I thought about this and I said, you know, I don't want this raised. What if we just keep everything flat, but we have that lip that goes around everything? And so in Photoshop, that's what I did. I basically made a stroke that was a separate layer so I could do it here. And honestly, even the amount of ink that's on this, it put a line around the border here, which I don't want. So we wasted a little bit more ink than we should have. But this one has a really nice effect. I do know that I changed the colors a little bit. I'm sorry on that, but it was, you know, me playing around in Photoshop. But this has a full 1 mil in height on this, and it gets a really nice impact. So now you see the 3D, but you didn't have to use a lot of ink. In fact, this was only $5.87. So this was a third of what this one was, having that same raised lip that this one had to give that impact. So basically what I'm trying to do is show you that there's a lot of different ways that you can approach this from a graphic design perspective to get the most bang for your buck with using the 3D aspects of this printer. The printer has one aspect where it's awesome that you can print color on whatever you want. That is the number one thing. And then it can also do this 3D stuff. The 3D stuff gets expensive and time consuming. So this was still a 3-hour print right here. This might be good for, I'm going to bed and hit print right beforehand. But it did get a lot of impact with it. So I'm sure you can find a lot of different ways to do that. In fact, our next project has a lot of what this does as well. All right, next project, we are going to try something fun. I printed out two of the exact same logo on here. So this one is just flat on the basswood. This is 3mm basswood. This one is raised. So this is a 3mm raise of the exact same. And what I did, you see these lines on here, I put it into my CO2 laser to see if I could cleanly cut it. And the answer is yes. I cut all the way through without catching the wood on fire. So that means I can cut things out if I print it on this basswood and then, you know, put it in my CO2 laser. So I just went and printed this very large guy, a pretty high raise on the image in the middle. This is like a happy birthday type of thing. And so what we're gonna do, which is the really fun one, we're going to put a puzzle piece cutout on this and turn this into a raised, inked, 3D-ish puzzle. I'm very excited to see if this works. If it does, this is a really cool thing that people could sell customized puzzles that have 3D raised textures on them too. All right, behold, we have our puzzle cut out. I love puzzles with this. The mixture of flat and 3D textures will bring a different element to it. It cut cleanly through on the basswood and the ink. I liked it so much I did it again. Here is printed on acrylic, and I used one of the AI functions in the software to give it a brushed paintbrush look on there. Also still cutting clean with the acrylic and the ink on top. This is one of my favorite prints, and it really illustrates being able to use selective raising for texture. All these little scales and bumps that protrude out give it an amazing look. Stone coasters are great. At a really low ink cost, you could batch these out. You can get about 12 of these on a large bed at the same time. You might want to keep it flat, obviously, so you don't knock over the drink. The next few items use a light AI feature inside the software where you can see it's white when it's off, and then when it turns on, it exposes the color. You could have a line motif like you see here, and then when it turns on, it will expose the color behind it. And you can also have a solid white with part of your image in color in front, and then it'll expose the back when you turn it on. These are going to be big sellers, I think, for a lot of people. You can also just do simple print transparencies on here. You might want to light this from a base on the bottom. I didn't have one available, so I just put it in this one. Doing physical objects like this hanger for a bride, if you could find a white hanger and do some nice print on there, I'm sure you could easily sell these along with a lot of other wedding products. Printing directly to paper products like this cardstock, very easy. I actually printed both raised and flat, and I prefer the flat on this. So this is the Eufy Make Rotary. This might be the best rotary I've ever seen. And I'm not joking. Let me tell you why. So first off, it comes with this little caddy for its magnetic attachments, which that's nice. Good forward thinking. But let's move this to the side for a second, and I'm going to show you, I've owned a lot of rotaries, particularly with my laser engravers and whatnot. And if I was going to use this very popular rotary, I would first chuck it up on here by sitting around and trying to tighten it, and I might have to change out the different attachments and whatever. And then I'm going to bring this other piece and kind of balance it here. And then I need to bring a bubble level and sit it on top to make sure that I am level. And then I'm going to have to spin it around and put the bubble level on again. And keep doing that to make sure that I am flat and level. And this is not a straight cylindrical one. This is tapered. So, you know, I kind of have to like tilt it up in a way. So when we go back to the Eufy Make one, first off, it has a locking mechanism. So there's this little lever right here that when I put my tumbler on, I extend this out. And what you'll see is it actually wants to go down, applying pressure to the tumbler. So I don't have to chuck it in any way. I can literally just bring this over, put it here, and then when I slide this forward, it really wants to lock it in place, but it does want to go down. So I'm going to slide my other wheels right up to it. There we go. And now it's actually pretty firmly in place, but it is at an angle right now, which is no good. So let's go ahead and put this in the machine and I'll show you what it does. All right, so I placed the rotary in here with a tumbler, and in the software I'm going to go to auto measure. So look, it's actually raising it up now and putting it at the correct angle so that it's flat. This rotary has an auto tilt to it, which is what makes it the coolest thing in the world. This was so easy to do. I mean, I cannot explain to you the joy I see with that at the moment. If you've ever used another type of rotary, you'll agree. Came out pretty awesome. Obviously this is a black mug and we got a black background logo on here, but I think it came out fantastic. So here we have a white mug. It has a built-in handle down at the bottom. The rotary can accept this, and you can see it's spinning it around right now, which is good. That actually finished way quicker than I thought it would. It only took 17 minutes. And, haha, 2 logos, one on each side. Awesome. So you're not going to want to try and do a full wrap on this because the area that it stops isn't even that close to the handle. It's actually kind of requiring me to stop like way over here. I put my logo almost to the edge of it. So you would have a very large gap area of pretty much that on your mug if you tried to do a wrap. So I think, you know, strategically placing some things on here, this looks pretty nice.
This is a brushed steel tumbler that is smooth. This took this logo really nicely. On the mug here, this is a textured powder coat, also great adherence with the ink. This is a full wrap test on a cylindrical mug. I don't like my design, but the main thing was, yes, it can do a full wrap on a mug that does not have a built-in handle. Let's talk about tumbler sizes real quick. So when we're talking about mugs, glass, ceramic, metal, you're fine with a handle built in there. It will still rotate. I've even been able to get this in here and it will rotate fine, but more about that in a second. All of my prints came out fine on the mugs, except for this one. It actually slipped a little bit right here, and it was because of the weight of the handle. This is not a chuck rotary, this is a roller rotary, which might be its only negative on here, as cool as it is. That meant that it didn't have as good of a hold that time that I had this in here. So make sure you really get it tight when you're going to be doing a mug before you put it in there so that doesn't happen to you. Anything that's perfectly cylindrical, it's going to have no problem with. And anything with a slight taper is going to be fine. Even this one that's kind of a contour, this one is fine as well. What it doesn't like are your Stanleys, your Yetis that have the big, you know, drop right here. I was hoping that I could still get something of a size. This one is smaller than those, so I was like, maybe it'll go. But unfortunately, no, it doesn't like that. Now, I had an idea about this. I shared it with my friend Mike Smirka, and he's making up something right now of maybe slipping something on here to then trick the machine into treating it as a cylinder, just so you can at least print on the top half. But we'll see if that works. I don't know yet. Also, if it is a heavier taper, it doesn't like that either. I did get it to recognize this once, but just know that this is not the preferred size shape for that. This is exactly 10 inches. I am just a hair shy of being able to get it in there, and I didn't want to like force the machine and break it. So this machine can fit up to like 9.95 inches, and it maxes out at a diameter of 100 millimeters. All right, let's take a look at the laminator. This is my last accessory for this video. There is one more that I didn't get yet, and that's because it's going to be released soon. It's been announced, and that is a roller accessory for the machine. So this will click on the back of the machine, and it will just infinitely feed a laminate sheet through there that you can print to and then apply it to other things. So like I could print on a skateboard or a surfboard or whatever, because it can just make it as long as you want to by the width of the machine. So I'll be excited to play with that when it comes out. I'm sure I'll be getting one, but in the meantime, let's look at the laminator. Inside the box, we have the laminator itself. It utilizes a roll system on the inside. It has a small base plate that we're going to use to put the sticky material, which comes with a large pack of this in here, on. It has an additional cutter. There's a cutter on the back of the machine that we'll see, but this is just in case you need to cut some material on the table afterwards. We also have a de-weeding tool, so in case you need to pick out small pieces of a sticker, and we also have kind of a scraper to make sure that we're getting all the air bubbles out. To use the laminator, though, we need to make something with the machine to actually laminate. So we're going to adhere the sticker base plate. First, let's apply our sticker base tray here. Then we're going to take one of the included clear sticker sticky back sheets. And one side of this has a really easy to take off plastic sheet. So take that one off first. It's pretty obvious which one is the easy one. We're going to stick this down directly on our sheet. All right, so we have printed 3 stickers on this board here. Over at the laminator, I have it plugged in. And so what we need to do to start it is we're going to pull out some of the film. We're going to take the feed board and we're going to push it in with the laminate under the roller. So now it's basically pulling the laminate through to the back where it's going to stay until you run out of laminate again and you have to put a new roll in. As you can see, our feed board came through. Okay, so we've made it all the way through. Back in the back of this machine, we have a cutter. So you press down and then you slide it across and it cut it free. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out that board out of this, put it back in the machine for next time. On the front of the machine, we're going to hit the heating button and we're going to wait for the heating light to stay solid green. Over here, we're going to take off the white pad and we're going to put it through with that white pad as well. It will come off at the end. It's not going to get trapped in there. I just got a little beep that we are preheated. So we're going to take our tray with our stickers and we're going to go ahead and just feed it in. It automatically takes it. Okay, it automatically stopped. I'm going to press down the lever, take my cutter across it. And so now we have our sticker on the film. I can now go ahead and peel off my white board. This way I can keep this and reuse it for the next one. And I now have my stickers that I can cut out here. There is a clear backing to it that if I peel it off, it will be adhesive sticky on this side. There's a lot of different DTF options. Here's a full sheet. That way I could batch print a whole bunch of these. This is a paper-backed one. On the back here, we just press down, slide it across, cuts it off. All right, so applying a DTF sticker. I threw it in the freezer for a couple minutes beforehand. Gonna apply it to this mug. I'm just doing it for you, so it's probably crooked. This is one of my tester cups for laser engraving and things. So you definitely want to make sure it's on there really good. And then we're gonna peel the clear layer off. All right, so then we just peel away the clear layer. Okay, and we have a nice DTF transfer. All right, so let's talk about ink, its costs, and strategies with this in making things work. I will be looking at some notes here, so I apologize, because this is a complicated thing. A lot of people online I saw were asking, well, how many prints can it do? That is a whole bag of cats as far as the answer. So this machine has 6 cartridges that are 100 milliliters plus the cleaning cartridge, so 6 inks. That means you have 600 milliliters of ink in here. And when it comes down to printing, if you're printing this flat imaged cell phone case, this guy is only using 0.07 milliliters, which means I could print 8,500 of these before I run through my inks. Meanwhile, if I do this puzzle right here, which is a mixture of flat and raised, I could get 13 out of my print cartridges. So it all depends on what you're printing in terms of how far it's going to go. And really a big thing about that is, are you printing flat or are you printing raised a little or raised a lot? As we saw with those yellow signs that I printed for my kids' Kung Fu school, the one flat sign used practically nothing from an ink perspective. I mean, it was literally like $1 to print a large metal sign, which is great. But when we raised it, it was $170 to print that sign, which is crazy and shouldn't be done. The value for a customer wasn't there. It was a really cool sign. I like it, but there's different ways that we could approach that. And this puzzle is actually a good indicator, because this puzzle is the same size as that sign, but this puzzle was about $13 worth of ink to run. And that's because I selectively raised items. And this is even still a very large raise. When you look at it, it looks like it's raised all over, but in reality, it's just one little line that is raised in places. And then in other places, a small rise on certain lines. So it's very selective in where it is having its impact. And so what that does is it gives you the, oh wow, it is raised, but you didn't have to do it everywhere, keeping the cost down, keeping the ink usage down. The same thing would be said with like my business card right here. The majority of it is flat. Only the hexagonal pattern right here from the background is actually really raised, and the two microphones. All this text isn't raised, everything below. So if somebody was looking at this, they would see that cool raise thing and be like, wow, but I didn't have to waste ink raising everything all the way across. So a little bit goes a long way is really what I'm trying to say with this, as far as ink usage and, you know, impact on your customer. Another thing, and I didn't really break this down in all my stuff. I don't have infinite space on the screen to show you a ton of stuff, but the ink usage is not equal across the board. On a typical print, when I'm doing something, even though this is a dark print, right, you would assume that I'm using lots of blacks and cyan on this. When you actually look at the print usage on it, it's practically nothing of all of the colors, and then a lot of the white, and maybe a lot of the gloss. The gloss is typically implemented when you're doing a raise 3D print. So in my usage in the past month, I was given 4 cases of ink, 2 that had all the colors, and 2 of them were just whites and glosses. And I was like, why am I getting so many whites and glosses? It's because I've had to replace the white 3 times. I've replaced the gloss twice, and I haven't replaced any of my colors at all the entire time I've been printing. The white is what you're using above and beyond all the time. So they do have specific kits that are just white and gloss that you can just order, because that's what you're going to be using the most of on here, not your colors, interestingly enough. So it's not all equal, just something to understand, of course. Another thing to think about is this cartridge. So the cartridge that is your cleaning cartridge is fluid that is washed into the line to keep everything from gumming up the print head. That would be the death of this machine, would be if you leave ink in this print head and it dries out, gums up, that's it. So this machine intelligently is constantly cleaning that print head when you leave this machine on. And when you fully power this machine off, it completely empties out the cartridge of ink into this cleaning cartridge and replaces it with cleaning solution in there so that it stays moist. I left this machine completely off for a week. I properly shut it down before I did that. No worries, turned it right back on, everything was fine. When you fully turn this machine off, it empties whatever ink is left in the head into that cartridge. It is a waste of ink, but it is a necessary evil in order to make sure that you don't break your machine. The more you do this, the faster you will fill up that cartridge, and that cartridge will need to be replaced. So that cartridge is essentially around the $42.99 mark. So that is something that is a variable in your consumables. If you keep this machine on all the time, and you are constantly running it, so you're running it every day for your business, it will be doing cleaning cycles and filling up this, but it won't be doing the big dump because you're not turning it off fully all the time. If you're somebody who only turns it on for today to make one print and then fully turns it back off again because you don't know how long you're going to use it, you're actually probably going to fill up that cartridge faster than somebody who's using it all the time, as odd as that sounds. So you're going to have a higher rate of replacement on that one consumable versus somebody that's using it in a more of a professional manner.
A few tips and tricks with this machine. Number one, these doors, they come off super easy. There's a little button right here. You just press the button, it is gone. So this machine for me is always living in my enclosure over there. This just gets in the way, honestly, so it's nice that I can just pop them right off and get rid of them. Next, when you are dealing with something like a cell phone case, it has a very thin amount of surface area that is then placed on the sticky bed. That means that it's really not being held in place very good. So throw some foam in there, throw something else. Now it has a lot of surface area to attach to the sticky thing. It'll also catch that overspray if you are fully printing on this case where the camera lens is. If you're doing DTF prints, throw this in the freezer for 15 minutes first before you apply it to whatever you're doing. These are like heat transfer, so by cooling it down quite a bit, it's going to make it a lot easier to put on and take off. Most of the time, of course. Now, UV is not food safe. So you cannot put this on something that you're going to like use a knife with. So like, let's say a cutting board, it needs to be a decorational cutting board only. It can't be actually physically used. Additionally, with your tumblers, you should not be printing it on the top rim area where somebody's mouth is going to go. It should be lowered a little bit. A lot of these that you might see in the background or something have a silver rim at the top that you're not touching. Also, in my tests, it is not dishwasher safe. Now, this isn't a dishwasher safe mug either. And a lot of the other beta testers have been trying, and some people, they're putting it through the dishwasher 5 times and it's fine. But the first time I put this one through the dishwasher, it immediately started flaking off the cup. So there are lots of stuff that is not dishwasher safe when it comes to these. You just have to label that it is not a dishwasher safe logo on there. It's hand wash only. There might be some ways to make it where it can survive. There are things that harden UV more, so like putting it outside and things. There's some lights that you can put it under. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. You're smart people. If that's your thing and you really want to pursue that, you'll figure out a way, but from my tests, it's not dishwasher safe. Let's look at some specs on this machine. Obviously, the dimensions of it are posted everywhere, but when you have the large bed, it actually extends out further in the front past the door than it does in the back. If it was all the way in the back, it would equal the door. So if you were going to put this on a traditional countertop, from the back door to the front of the machine itself, you're at 19 inches. So you're okay. You can put this back to front on a countertop. It will most likely overhang because you're at about 32 inches, obviously depending on the depth of your counter there. The printing area on the big one, what I did was I took a piece of construction paper, taped it to the bed, and printed the largest plus that I could. That gives me 13.11 inches in width by 16.4 inches in height. I'll put the metric down below. And then we also, some people might have questions about what the power draw is on this. And so I've hooked this up to my power meter. On the screen is the American power brick. When the machine is idle, it is drawing 0.46 amps and alternating between 14 to 50 watts of draw depending on its actions. When it's actually printing, it is running between 0.7 and 1 amp, and it is drawing 45 to 60 watts. So safety, obviously this machine comes with goggles. It uses UV light to cure the ink. It is UV-C, which is the lowest danger level of UV light, but it still does stuff. So obviously we have these goggles here. Per Eufy Make, if you have the machine open, if you're gonna put your head down here and look directly at that light, wear these goggles. If the machine is closed, it blocks 90% of the light. But a bigger thing to talk about is volatile organic compounds, VOCs. I have had this machine out when I'm filming for you out in the open because it is not putting off enough volatile organic compounds where it is a danger to me. I have been tracking this the entire time. It is very, very low amounts. The ink that is being used is Green Guard certified, which is the lowest amount of VOCs. But it is putting off VOCs.
it is something. I can smell it. It smells like if you just pop the cap off of like acrylic ink and smell it, like paint at the craft store. That's what this smells like. It has a filter in the front with a fan, so it is filtering this stuff, but it's not getting everything. So I do recommend that you keep this in an enclosure. 99% of the time that I have been using this over the past month, it is in the corner of my shop in my vented enclosure. I only pull it out here for video time with you guys. An enclosure could be as simple as a cardboard box around it with a computer fan and a hose out the window. It doesn't have to be crazy expensive. There's a pop-up tent version. One of the other beta testers has one. They were nice enough to let me use a clip of the video here, so thank you very much for that. I'll link that in the description below. So that's just a canvas pop-up tent that goes around this that is large enough to fit this one. Or you could do a whole cabinet like I do. I'll link that down below. The end-all answer, though, is it is putting off something. It's not a lot, but it's something. So you don't want to breathe that stuff in. I recommend using an enclosure with this.
Right before the print job is sent to the printer, there are some different color options that you can choose, so let's look at those.
First, we have the most used on solid surfaces, which is a white layer and then a CMYK layer. The white layer is going to establish a base so that you get a very vibrant picture on it. If you don't put that white layer and you just print CMYK, you're going to get the back layer tinting the actual image. So you can see when you look at both of them together, this one looks brighter and this one looks duller. Now there is some use if you are just going to use CMYK. If this is white, you don't need to waste the white ink. You will get that vibrant image just printing CMYK on it. And if you're printing on a clear surface and you do CMYK only, you will get a transparent image. So you can see my fingers behind that. So there is some benefit there for certain use cases. We then have CMYK only plus gloss. This would be good again on that transparent surface. So you have two layers here. We then have white, CMYK, and gloss. So this is probably the 3-layer version if you want to go maximum on a solid surface. This can also be done on transparent surfaces too, but you're going to see a white layer behind it. Then you get some interesting stuff. So here we have CMYK first, then white over it. This really doesn't produce anything great here on a physical hard object, but when we're talking about a glass surface, it is dull on this side, but when you look through the glass at the other side, it's incredibly vibrant because we have a white backing on it. So if you want to shine through the glass and it to look really good on the other side, you can definitely do this. Now, one thing you do have to think about, if you're trying to make it look good on the other side, you need to flip your image. Notice you can't read it right now because it's facing the other direction, if you want to be able to read it on the good side. Another option that is really only pertinent for see-throughs is CMYK, white, CMYK. What that's going to do is make a vibrant image on this side of the glass and on that side of the glass because it's doing 3 layers, color, white, color. This is cool, but I would warn you against maybe doing text with this because it will be legible on this side. It will not be legible, it'll be backwards on that side. So this might be regulated to shapes, images, logos, things like that. Lastly, we have just a gloss and just a white. These would be pertinent if maybe you just want to add a gloss coat to something that's already down, or if you want to establish a base before you do something else. The last profile is sticker, and so you're doing this if you're going to be using your DTF printing. It wants to make sure that it prints enough material so that it's going to be able to hold itself together. So my final thoughts on the Eufy Make E1. This is a machine that can create really unique stuff that I had zero capability of making before here in the shop. It can either make individual products like this, or it can augment the things that I'm already making. So that is really cool. I'm able to just pick up whatever tumbler I have and throw a logo on here for my small business. That's really cool too, or logo anything really. I've been able to make stuff that is going to really impact when I give it as a gift. So like I made this puzzle specifically for my mom. She is a big puzzle lover. This is a picture of my kids, her grandkids, on a vacation she was at, and I printed it on her favorite sparkly red acrylic here, which basically makes this puzzle indestructible from a puzzle perspective. So when I send this to her, she's going to be floored. That reaction is what you want in things that you are selling. So if you are able to come up with new, really creative stuff, this reveal thing, my friend Mike was saying, oh, you should put like an engagement photo on there, and then when you turn it on, it says like, will you marry me or something. There's so many creative things you can do with it. That reaction that you're going to get out of these customers is what's going to equal sales, which is going to be able to also make you charge a premium for certain things on here. Being able to do 3D textures is awesome, but you do need to pay attention to the cost associated with that very carefully. Before you print a job, it will tell you how much ink it's going to use, so you won't make that mistake like I did when I did that big yellow sign that was insanely expensive. It used half the ink in the machine. Being able to selectively choose things to make 3D is your better option, and really only where you're going to be able to charge for it, of course. Doing a little bit goes quite a long way. The price of the machine, $22.99 US retail. So that's what the price will be. It's currently on Kickstarter at the time of this video. It might not be. YouTube's forever when you watch this, but right now it's on Kickstarter, and that's just for pre-orders. They're already manufacturing these things. It's up to $600 off at the moment on Kickstarter, again, depending on when you're watching this video. So that's a huge discount. That puts the price tag of this around the $1,600, $1,700 range. That's really good when you compare it over to my laser engravers, CNC machines. This is a price for a small business that's obtainable outside of where UV printers usually are, $15,000 plus. So you can actually get into this market with an obtainable machine, and you can even use it as a stepping stone if you want to. So if you are a production small business, you get into this, you're really selling out. That might be the thing to say, okay, yeah, I do need to buy a big commercial machine because I have the customer base for it now. There's a lot of ways you can look at this, of course. I have an affiliate link down below. If you think that I earned you clicking that link because I gave you so much information on here, I tried to give you everything that I could, and you're going to order this machine, click that link down below. It'll give me a little commission. That helps me out. I appreciate it. But even if you're not buying this machine, I'm sure you can appreciate this thing is pretty cool, and I'm really excited to see what a lot of creative people are able to make with it when they get their hands on it too. So I hope you'll hit that like and subscribe button, and as always, stay safe in the shop. I'll see you in the next one.